yeux loin du cœur, j'oublierai pour toujours et ton corps et tes bras et ta voix, mon amour.
He personified French culture to the world. 8 decades of career, he wrote more than 1,000 songs and sold 180 million records. Today, we're paying tribute to the singer, songwriter and actor Charles Aznavour, who's died aged 94.
The one for me, formidable. You are the one, désirable.
Vous me voyez déjà en haut de l'affiche.
Emmenez-moi au bout de la terre, emmenez-moi au pays des merveilles. Il me semble que la misère serait moins pénible au soleil.
The music critic Richelle Plesse is here with me to remember the man called the French Frank Sinatra. Richelle, what a legend.
Yes, he was an ambassador of La Chanson Française, representing the very essence of France, along with his good friend Edith Piaf, another French icon. Aznavour was possibly France's most famous musical export and certainly one of the country's most beloved entertainers.
Well, tributes have been pouring in for the French singer. Luke Schrager reports.
Charles Aznavour considered Paris's Olympia Concert Hall a second home. Contemporary talent descended on the venue to pay the iconic singer tribute.
I feel so lucky for being part of this generation of artists that had the chance to sing alongside him, to be given his advice.
Homage in song and a sentiment shared by Aznavour's contemporaries.
I think he's gone to the heaven for great artists and musicians, but he'll stay in the hearts of all French people because his songs tell the story of their lives.
He wrote for everyone, for Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., for Liza Minnelli.
Beyond the entertainment sphere, France's politicians paid tribute too, from the benches of Parliament to former presidents.
He did not just love France, he loved the French language. He was its spokesperson, he polished it, refined it, controlled it through his songs.
He was a writer, he was an actor, he was a singer, with that incomparable voice. We'll keep him in our thoughts and our hearts.
Elsewhere, there were suggestions of a more lasting monument to Aznavour's accomplishments.
I'm really very sad because Charles Aznavour, I knew him. I loved him very much, like all French people, like many Armenians, like the French, and the entire world at large. We've lost such a great character, and I will of course suggest that somewhere in Paris bear his name.
Gone but not forgotten, Aznavour will live on through the music that captured not just France, but the world.
Richelle, a giant of French entertainment, but he also knew international fame, didn't he?
With more than 1,200 songs under his belt, Aznavour had his fair share of hits, composing dozens of classics, not only in French, but in English, German and Spanish. For English-speaking audiences, he was probably best known for the romantic ballad She. It went to #1 in the UK in 1974, but got a new lease of life when it was covered by Elvis Costello for the soundtrack to the hit film Notting Hill, starring Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts. He wrote tunes for Edith Piaf, of course his friend and artist whom he toured with, Elton John and his former lover Liza Minnelli. He duetted with Celine Dion, Sting and Frank Sinatra himself, while stars such as Elvis Presley and Ray Charles covered his hits. Let's take a look.
Yesterday, when I was young, the taste of life was sweet as rain upon my tongue.
I prayed that she would not see me cry. So much to say that should be heard, but only time to say goodbye to
Rock legend Bob Dylan is another artist who covered Aznavour and who admired him, hailing his 1963 show at Carnegie Hall as one of the greatest performances he'd ever seen. And the accolades kept coming later in life. In 1998, CNN named him Entertainer of the Century. And just last year, he was awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Well, France 24's Louise Dupont interviewed Charles Aznavour in 2011, and he told her the lyrics were everything.
Music is the medium for my words. Other people might say that the words are there to complement the music, and they're probably right because that's their way of seeing things. But I put the lyrics front and center. French songs are based on the words.
That was Charles Aznavour in 2011 here in our studios. His songs weren't always easy listening, though, were they, Richelle? He spoke of subjects you're not supposed to talk about.
That's right. At first glance, or at first listen, rather, he's a crooner with romantic melodies and cabaret stylings. Yes, he was dubbed France's Frank Sinatra, but Aznavour wrote songs about things that were really taboo at the time, themes ranging from relationships in crisis, marriage breakdown, homosexuality, rape, depression, and men talking about their emotions, subjects that may have been uncomfortable for some to listen to. So he was really good at the dark stuff, grief, remorse, despair, and he was very frank about some of the less glamorous aspects of life. Aznavour himself said he wanted to break every taboo, that he was drawn to talking about things that you're not supposed to talk about. And one example is one of his hits in the 1970s was Comme ils disent, in English, What Makes a Man, and it was about a transvestite in an era when homosexuality just wasn't talked about.
After stripteasing, each night the men look so surprised. I change my sex before their eyes. Tell me if you can, what makes a man a man?
Well, he started his career early, and it began on stage, and then in film, way before music.
That's right. He honed his stagecraft from a very young age, acting as a child. I think he was 9 years old when he acted in his very first play. And over the years, he appeared in more than 60 films and some 30 TV dramas. In 1997, France's Academy of Cinema Arts and Techniques gave him an honorary César Award. His most significant on-screen credit, though, was his role in François Truffaut's Shoot, the piano player, but he was also in 1979's The Tin Drum, which won the Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film.
OK, well, let's take a look at François Truffaut's Shoot, the piano player.
Bonsoir, Charlie. Ça va bien?
Qu'est-ce que tu fous ici? Bah moi je vais te le dire, tu gauche ta vie.
Ça va.
Ça va pas du tout. Bah t'as bonne mine derrière cette casserole. Alors tu devrais être devant un piano de concert, devant une salle bourrée à bloc, avec des spectateurs à genoux. Alors moi je te demande qu'est-ce que tu fous ici?
Je peux pas être à deux endroits à la fois.
Oh, laisse-moi rigoler. Un virtuose international qui peut même pas se payer une bagnole. Mais c'est le monde renversé, ça.
Ça va, ferme-la.
Charles Aznavour was born in Paris to Armenian immigrants in 1924, and he was loved in Armenia just as he was here in France. We spoke to some of his fans in the capital, Yerevan, yesterday.
There are people in the world that can be described as true stars. Charles was one of them. You can really say that he was a star and will remain one. I think we didn't have enough time to tell him everything we wanted to tell him.
It's not just a loss for Armenia and France. It's a loss for the entire Francophone world. It's a loss for every music lover on earth. Artists like Aznavour only come along once every 200 years.
I listen and will continue listening to Aznavour's music. I was lucky enough to sing on stage with him twice when I was in a children's choir. Charles Aznavour was a great man for us Armenians, a truly great man. Every time his country or his people needed him, he was there.
He never forgot his roots, did he, Richelle?
No, he didn't. His parents fled the Armenian genocide to begin a new life in Paris, and that really shaped his link to the country, becoming a staunch advocate for the Armenian cause. In 1988, he formed his own charity to help Armenia rebuild after a devastating earthquake. He was very active with his humanitarian work for the country. He also wrote many songs to bring attention to the Armenian genocide and really campaigned for international recognition. Then in 2009, he was appointed Armenia's delegate to the United Nations. And as we heard with those vox pops there from people in Armenia, he was much loved and much admired, worshipped really as a son of the Armenian people.
Well, that brings us to the end of our tribute to the French legend Charles Aznavour. Final word, Richelle?
Aznavour, as we've been saying, he was a legend, he was a giant who was still performing to sold-out venues to this day, and he was counting on singing until he was 100. While he didn't make it to a century, unfortunately, he's left so many fans and admirers over the generations with his timeless sound, and that will never die, Eve.
Richelle, thank you so much. And we're going to leave you with the song he's best known for in the English-speaking world, She. Remember our website, we're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
Maybe 100 different things within the measure of a day. She may be the beauty or the beast, maybe the famine or the feast, may turn each day into a heaven or a hell. She may be the mirror of my dream, a smile reflected in a stream. She may not be what she may seem inside.